Okay, I have a field gear video here. This is primarily for a subscriber known as Ideological Gambler. He is a sub over here on YouTube, and he's over on my Militia. And he had sent me a message that about a month ago, I'm behind on this. He had come across a pawn shop or surplus store that had a bunch of Kevlar helmets. And he was wondering what he should look for, how he could tell if they were serviceable or not. Now, everyone has it in their heads. They have to get the newest, latest, fanciest, most expensive shit. So everyone is out there right now trying to get a hold of the ACH and the MICH helmet, and it's civilian versions on the market. This is the predecessor to those. The reason we went from these over to the ballistic bump helmet, which is really what the ACH is, and the MICH, is they wanted to pad the inside of the helmets to help cut down on traumatic brain injuries from IED blasts. That was the main reason. And a lot of us back then, before they started issuing the ACHs, said, well, why can't you take the existing Kevlar helmet, which works great, does what it's needed to do, and just put a different suspension system on the inside and put pads inside this one? Why did we have to go through get issued a smaller helmet than this, which really exposed a lot of areas on the side of your head and stuff. When you look at the two helmets side by side, this thing is almost twice the size of an ACH or a MICH, and I still prefer this over the ACH. Whenever I wore the ACH, it just felt like I was wearing a freaking beanie on top of my head. It wasn't really covering nothing. Yeah, it was padded, it had a better suspension, but it just left so much room open that you could still get shot. Now, this helmet replaced this helmet, the old M1 steel pot. These were phased out starting in the 1980s, replaced with these. And these went on the market back in the early 90s. That's when I bought this one. This is the first helmet I ever bought off the surplus market. And I think I paid like $15 for this when they were first on the market. Now they're a lot harder to find because they've turned into a collector's item. Don't get a steel helmet. These really didn't protect against anything. They were never meant to protect against bullet strikes. They were only meant to protect against shrapnel. And even shrapnel will puncture this. These are not worth having. No steel helmet is. That's one of the reasons why you've seen so many people in Vietnam leave their helmets behind in missions. This helmet, they updated with obviously Kevlar material, which is a fiberglass ballistic material. These will protect against shrapnel, and it will protect against some bullet strikes. Obviously, the distance from the shooter to the helmet plays a lot into it. If you're looking at under 100 meters, yeah, you're going to punch through this easy. But there is a Kevlar in the 82nd Airborne's Museum at Fort Bragg, which has a 7.62 by 39 millimeter slug in it. That helmet came from the first Gulf War. Paratrooper got shot, the helmet saved his life. And then that helmet went into the museum. Now, this is your basic helmet, okay? The parts you're going to have of it is obviously the shell, which you can see in here. You have a cover, cat eyes. This is so people can follow you at night. These do glow in the dark for a while, and when they start to lose their glow, you reactivate them with a flashlight. Hold the flashlight right up against the helmet for a while on both sides to reactivate. On the inside of the helmet, you have your suspension webbing, and this is sized same as your helmet. You have your sweatband, your chin strap, and then the connectors for the chin strap, which are screwed to the side of your Kevlar helmet. Now, I recommend when you get a Kevlar helmet, wash it, plain and simple. Turn it upside down, put some water in it, some degreaser in it, and fill this thing up. The reason you're using degreaser is to get the grease out of the webbing. You can change out the webbing, the suspension system. It's held in with screws and plates through the side here. There's one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. That holds the webbing in. There are replacement screw sets for replacing these because they do have a tendency that they do rust up and rust together. I've had to, I think on this one, I had to replace those screws when I put a new set of webbing inside this one, back when I could get the webbing at a decent price. But go through, soak it for about 24 hours, dump it out, and then spray it out. And then scrub the outside also to get any garbage off of it. When you do that, you strip everything out of it. You take the cover off, the cat eyes. You can put the chin strap in, but I really recommend get a brand new chin strap. Using old ones, no matter how much you soak the bastard, it's always going to feel slimy. And then take the sweatband out. The only thing you should leave in here when you're soaking it is these straps here and the webbing, provided you're not replacing the webbing. Go through, clean it up, let it air dry, and then put everything back on. Now, there is a protective coating on this, kind of a paint coating that's over the top of the Kevlar material. You'll find that seriously chipped on a lot of these because they're used. Don't worry about it, isn't going to affect nothing. And if you put a Kevlar cover over it, which you should be, it's going to cover that up anyways. Who cares? The purpose of the Kevlar cover is to change the pattern for this helmet that it fits in. There is DCU patterns, the desert patterns. There's obviously the woodland pattern, which is the most common you're going to find. These do have little cuts in them. This is so that you can put vegetation into your helmet to break up the outline. The cat eyes should go right over the lip here. If you can see, there's a brim. This goes right over the top of that. Always put some 550 cord, or what I did on mine, a bootlace, to hold the cat eyes on, because these do have a tendency to pop off when you're out on patrol. You tie off, if I can find where you tied it here, tie it on, now there he is. Tie it off to the suspension system. Do that on both sides. And then obviously the cat eyes on the back. If you want to, for identification purposes, you can put your name on the front. That actually was the military standard. Another thing we went to was putting your blood type on the side, so that a medic could come up, look at your blood type, and get it written down for when you had to go in for medical assistance because you were wounded. Now, I mentioned sizes. That's down in here. Right there, actually, on this one. See if you can. This one is a medium. Sizes on this were extra small, which those were pretty rare. Smalls, mediums, that's the most common, is the mediums. Larges and extra larges. I've only ever seen a few extra larges, and but they're not as rare as the extra smalls. I think I've only ever seen one extra small ever in the time I was in the military, and it was basically just sitting on a shelf. It was there for if needed. So the sizes on these are based on your hat size, your cap size. So if you're wondering what size Kevlar you need, look up your military hat size online. There is conversion charts, and it'll tell you what size Kevlar you need. If you're trying to stock up some of these for a 510 program, get primarily mediums. That's your number one to get, is mediums. Sweatbands, I recommend if you get a Kevlar, get a brand new sweatband. The old ones get pretty nasty. Here, inside mine, you can see what it looks like after a considerable use. So get a new sweatband, and then, you know, just stick with it, and when you think it's getting too degraded, put in a new one. They're held in with either clips or, like on mine, if you can see, Velcro. The Velcro is the newer one that they issued out before we went to ACHs, and I got a bunch of those laying around in a box somewhere. They did sell a because this webbing can get irritating on the top of the head after a while. They did sell the foam donut inside clothing sales that you could put in here. So if you are one of those that's having issues, get the donut, it'll help. Now, that's your base Kevlar. You can upgrade it, which I did with mine here. This is obviously the last cover I used before we went over to ACH garbage. My cat eyes here is literally, Christ, it's almost 30 years old now. I used this when I was in. Yes, I covered up my name, so to people trying to find out who I am. You can put the plate for your night vision on the front screw here. Now the night vision has this is the Rhino mount. You'll get the actual Rhino, which pops down on here, and then your night vision hooks onto that, and then it swings down in front of you. Do not carry your night vision on your helmet at all times. If you go this route, make sure to tighten up your suspension system real good, because when you have the night vision on front, it will pull the front of your helmet down as you're moving. I recommend also some type of ballistic goggles over it, the sun, wind, dust ones, which is this one. It's the old one, and then they had the newer style ones. Those are all supposed to be ballistic, not the sun, wind, dust ones. You actually had to get the lenses that said they were ballistic. The original goggles like this, they came with just a general flimsy plastic for eye protection, but we realized we needed more protection than that, so they started issuing the ballistics. And then regardless of what type you put on, put some type of cover over it. I used a sock here to keep light from glinting off of it. What I had to do with these, I know you can't really tell, you can replace the cat eyes when they wear out. There is luminescent tape you can put on them. You just cut the old ones off and sew new ones on. You can put the upgraded cushion system in here. It is held in. Let's see if I can take one out here. With Velcro pads, make sure to clean the inside really good. Get all the grease off before you attach the glue from the pad on there. And then you just stick the new padding in here. Because this helmet is wider, I recommend keep the at least the webbing around the top here that screws into the side of the helmet, and then put your sweatband on that to keep it more firmly on your head. This back here will help protect or cushion from the blasts. This will help keep the helmet on your noggin. So we typically would preset our chin straps. We got it to the size we needed, and then we would use tape to hold it in that position. So obviously you can, you know, update and upgrade these. You can, if you really want to. I don't see a real reason for it. You can put the stupid rail systems on this, so you can attach more Special Forces type garbage on here, so you can pretend to be a Navy SEAL or whatever. Up to you. But if you do that, you typically leave the cover off. But my preference is use the cover, because you can stick vegetation in this, which will break up your outline. And then I always carry my old dust mask here on the inside to add more on the cushion. And then if I'm on a dusty road in a vehicle, I would pull this out of the Kevlar, put it around my face when we're going down the road. Something I should mention here, holding these covers on. You got these. This goes over the suspension system. These points here, you have to cross them, X them, because of their length. They're designed to, they're supposed to go that way. The rest of these are singles, and they just go down, under, over, connect onto the cover. These back here, you have to cross them. They're designed to do that. And the reason they do that is because of the screw right there. It goes around that screw. So you can unbutton the Kevlar chin strap if you so choose. Truthfully, I don't even remember the last time I did that on mine. As I said, typically we preset them, tape them, and then just slide them on, slide them off. But if you're going to use night vision on the front of these, you're going to want to tighten up this chin strap really damn tight, and make sure that your sweatband is a little bit tight to keep your helmet from dropping forward. Now, prices on these, if you're still watching, I think a good price on these is anywhere between 40 to 60 bucks. You're going to have some people that are going to ask 100 plus because they are Kevlar. Argue them down, plain and simple. The new ACHs, when I've seen people post those, they want at least 100 to as much as 200, 225 for them. These, they're going to work, okay? No helmet is going to protect you against bullet strikes 100% of the time. This will do the job. It's a hell of a lot cheaper. We used them for a long time. There are millions of these on the market. And, you know, plain and simple, you can get one of these for 40 to 60 bucks, luckily. Mine, this one here, I actually bought at a pawn shop back in the 90s for like 40 bucks, I think. That was back when it was an issue item. The reason I had bought it back then is we had a hell of a lot of theft in our unit, and I purchased an extra one to have just in case. Because if you ever lost one or someone stole yours, you ended up paying the U.S. government like $250 replacement cost for one of these. So I spent 40 bucks at a pawn shop and carried this around in my gear, in my locker, inside the barracks room, for if someone did get around to stealing mine. Theft was bad back then, just really, really bad. People were trying to make extra cash because we were getting shortchanged by Clinton on our paychecks, and they were not above stealing gear from their buddy. You know, just stealing an entire rucksack and an entire duffel bag and selling and pawning that stuff off. So I do recommend these. Get yourself a helmet, get yourself a ballistic one. This is your cheaper route. And you know what? It works. Plain and simple, it works. And if you want to upgrade it, update it, it can be done. It'll cost you a little bit, but you know, it's still going to be considerably cheaper than the MICH or ACH. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and Militia movements, always remember, essayons.